Do you need a solid system to onboard your buyers so that nothing gets dropped in the process? Well, you're in luck because in this episode, I'm going to break down exactly what I do from the first phone call to the first showing so that you have all of the processes in place to have an effective onboarding process for your buyer clients. So first things first, buyers are where it's at, especially in this market in 2025. Now, I will always agree with the whole rhetoric that you list, you last, but let's be real. Right now, we have more listings available than buyers in the market. So when you have somebody who's raising their hand and they're ready, willing, and able to buy, you need to have a solid process to get them onboarded, to get them to become your clients so that you can get them to the closing table. So let's start with the very first thing, the very first step that you want to have, and that is a discovery call. Now, with the discovery call, this is honestly your first interaction. So it can literally happen on the phone, like if you're doing cold calls, or if this is a referral call, they're calling you, or you meet them at the open house. It's whatever that initial conversation is. And in this initial conversation, you are going to use the script LP Mama to go really deep with them and figure out exactly their timeline, their motivation, are they interviewing other agents? This is going to get all of that out in the open so that you know exactly who you're working with. Now, I did a whole video that talks about LP Mama and I outline exactly what the processes are, what the questions you need to have in that call, and you can check that video out right above. Now, after that initial discovery call, this is a part where a lot of people skip, but you're not going to do it, bestie, is that the second step is you are going to actually put them in your database, okay? Put the person's information, if they're married, put their spouse's information, everything that you have gathered from that initial interaction, from where they want to live to their current situation, when is their lease up, do they have kids, what are the homes that they are most interested in, what do they perceive their price point to be. You want to get all of that plus their contact information, phone number, and the best email address for them. You are going to put it in the database, and you want to set them up to start receiving like a loose search. So like, let's just say, for instance, I meet somebody and my discovery call happened at an open house. At that open house, I find out that they want to move up to Salina, Texas. They think that their budget will be around $600,000 and they want a one-story. I'm just going to use that loose data that I have plus everything else that I learned in that conversation. I'm going to put it all in the CRM along with their contact information. And then I'm going to let them know, you know what, it was so great to meet you, Jackie, at the open house. I went ahead and I started sending you over properties, or even in that initial conversation, I'll let them know that I'm starting to send them over properties. I'm going to set that frequency to about once a week because initially I don't want to overwhelm their inbox. And like, if you can go a step further, like if you have a CRM that has an app feature, or they can search on their own, you're just going to let them know that now you are already providing them this resource to help with their search. So that's going to be the second step. Now, the third step when you are onboarding your potential buyer clients is we want to send them to the lender. Now, best case scenario, we are going to encourage them to have a conversation with our preferred lender. I do this even when people tell me that they have a pre-approval. I say, great, I'm so happy that you have pre-approval. I'll do a little bit of digging, but I will say, hey, I would still love for you to just have a conversation with my preferred lender. And here's the reason is that I have vetted them, right? I know that my preferred lender is going to do a full underwrite. They're going to make sure that they do a thorough dive of your finances, of credit. If anything pops up, I let them know, I let the buyers know that for most often, if a deal falls apart, sometimes it's because something may have been missed in the pre-approval or the lending process. And I know that the lenders that I work with, like our track record shows that they have just will do their due diligence, right? And I don't want us to go out and look at homes without them being really clear on what their financial obligations are going to be, and to make sure that we are shopping within their purchasing power. Now, let's just say you have somebody that is resistant, and I've had this before, they feel really solid about their credit union or their bank or whatever, then that's completely fine. I tell them, hey, you know what? I work for you, right? I am looking to earn your business. So I'm happy to work with anyone that you're comfortable with, but you just want to be in contact. You want to get a copy of that pre-approval letter. You want to make sure it's a pre-approval and not a pre-qualification, and actually get that lender on the phone to make sure that they have gone through all of the necessary numbers, that they have not only talked about pre-approval, but they have talked about purchase price, that they've talked about, what the cash to close will be. And this is just a side note. Sometimes lenders will make promises on your behalf, like, oh, your realtor is just going to go in and they're just going to negotiate this or negotiate that. Like, you have to make sure that you and this lender are on the same page so that they're not making promises on your behalf that you have no idea about. So making sure that you go through the pre-approval process. Now, step number 4, probably the most important step that most realtors skip, but not you, bestie, because you that chick, okay? You are going to do this, is the buyer consultation. Now, I may sound like a broken record because I talk often about making sure that you slow down before you speed up. I know you're excited. You got a hot pre-approval in your hand. And let's be real. In this market, you want to be working with these pre-approved buyers and get them out showing, get them motivated so that they can purchase a house. But if you skip the pre-approval process, right? If you skip this process in your system, I'm telling you, you do not want to skip this consultation process, okay? Because if you skip this process, not only does it not give you an opportunity to share what it looks like to work with you, what the process is to hire you, but this is where you really get to shine and demonstrate your professionalism, because you got so many agents out here that are just opening doors and not educating their clients about the process and the market. So in the buyer consultation, when I do a buyer consultation, I go really, really deep, and I use the verbiage. Like, sometimes when you're purchasing a home, it can feel fast and furious. So we want to slow down before we speed up, because my goal is not only to get you in the home, but to make sure that you are an educated consumer and you understand exactly what it looks like, because this is such an important investment. So during this consultation, what I want you to do is I want you to literally walk through, what does it look like to hire a realtor? Because let's be real, they can just click a button on the MLS or on Zillow, and somebody will show up to their door to open a door for them. Or you have other people that feel like they don't even need a realtor. They can just walk into a builder and do it all themselves. So it is on us, right? It is on you to do your due diligence and really explain how you are a valuable asset, not only for them purchasing this home, but how you are going to support them and their family as a local pillar in the community. And then from there, you get to really explain what agency is and what it looks like to hire you and how you are compensated, okay? Now, I know that this may feel icky and you just might not feel comfortable quite yet going through that, and that's why I actually have an entire buyer consultation training. I am going to put the link exactly where you are listening to this episode or watching it so that you can get that training. Trust me, it is an investment. You want to see how it's done, the language that I'm using, and trust me, it is going to lead to more conversions. Then after you have that part of the process, now you get to explain exactly what the purchasing process is and what they can expect going forward. Most times, okay, when I have had issues with buyer clients, when I've had issues through the transaction, it's because I didn't slow down in the beginning and I didn't do these consultations and I didn't set those expectations. In your consultation, you're going to go over everything from how many homes they can expect to see with you. What will scheduling look like? Okay. What should they be shopping over their budget? How are you going to keep them informed on what's happening in the market? When they are under contract, what is your role then, right? How are you going to work with the lender? What they should expect at closing? Like, all of these things are super duper important for you to outline during this consultation. And I'm going to say it again for the people in the back that didn't hear me. Slowing down and doing this, presenting yourself, because guess what, friend? I know you got into real estate for some extra money or because it looks all cool on Instagram, but homie, you are now a business owner. So this is your time to shine and to really demonstrate the validity and how valuable your business is to them and this next step of purchasing a home. So make sure that you do not skip the buyer consultation. And if you are really confused, like, I don't even know where to start, I got you, bestie. You're going to go and you're going to get that from me and you're going to see exactly how it's done. So let's recap what we've done so far, and then we're going to get to the end part. So first part of your system is that exploration call. Second part, you are putting them in the database and starting to send out properties in the database. Then the pre-approval process. Don't skip this. Do not be out here showing people houses that they can't afford and they don't know their financial contribution. And if they are not willing to get pre-approved, then guess what? They're not ready to buy a house anyway. So you can move on to somebody who is ready. Then the buyer consultation, the most important part of the process. And then now the next part is you get your paperwork signed, okay? So before you go out and you start showing homes, immediately after that buyer consultation training, the next part of my process is like, before we hang up the Zoom, I am sending them over the buyer representation agreement, because I have thoroughly explained that not only is it the law, right? It's the law that this has to be on file before I can open a door for you. But we have also thoroughly explained exactly why we are an asset. Compensation is in there. They understand their responsibilities. You've outlined how you will work to negotiate all terms, including compensation, to their benefit, right? You have explained all of these things, and you are going to get your paperwork signed, okay? This is one of the reasons why the consultation piece is so important, because it makes that pivot in that conversation to getting your buyer representation agreement signed much easier, because you have demonstrated your professionalism all the way throughout. And then finally, the last part of the system is now we are going out to show homes. Now, when you are going to show homes, I even have systems around like how many homes I will show in a day, what our showing schedule will be. That's going to look different for every single person. But the biggest thing that I can say there is, again, going back to the consultation, make sure that these people know they're not going to drag you, right? They're not going to be calling you at midnight talking about, hey, I want to go see this house first thing in the morning, and that's the day of your baby recital, okay? So you are going to have strict perimeters in place where you say exactly how many homes we're going to see, how we're going to stay within your budget, different ways you're going to bring them back to reality when they want to, vary off and do things totally differently than what you all have discussed. When you get ready to start showing homes, you even have to have the systems in place. You decide ahead of time what it's going to look like. And when you communicate that at the buyer consultation, it is a much easier process. Now, in the next video, I am going to break down the systems that you need to have in place from contract to close.